So we did anything like recommendations. That's all done for motion.
Yeah. Well,
I know her. I've been knowing her for a long time. Yeah. But that's like I was talking all about. Why can't they do that before? Man. They said they're and he said all they got to do is give me a plan, look at it, and they have yet to do this. That's what he told me. But they can do all that prior to this.
I know, don't wait till I don't want to start we got a full crash. Yeah, just wait until they finish signing in.
That's what I think. I think we need to send it.
I know what you got to do.
Send it back to the table with these recommendations. We're not against it.
Well, this we can send it to the commissioners with those recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah, then they can take it. I think we need to make a motion.
Well, 100% agree with that. I wrote that down. I wrote some of that
I
down.
got with my little scribble notes right here.
Where's this mic at? I want to see if.
Yes, ma'am.
Leslie, how many folks left to come in?
Steve, I also got it down here, all the infrastructure will be fully paid by them. We want some kind of written, we don't want to say, he comes up here and says, I'm gonna pay it. We want some kind of, I think we need some kind of written agreement between them and the county. Yeah. We don't need word of mouth.
I ain't trying to do all that. Been through some of this. They look
How many people you got left outside? Yeah. All right, we're gonna start the meeting and we'll do some of the informal stuff first.
All right, that sounds good.
Actually, before I call this meeting. Hey, folks, we're gonna get ready to start the meeting. We still got some folks in the hall out there that are gonna sign up. I want to give them some time to do that. We'll go through just some of our few things before we get started. Under our regulations, if you want to get up and speak, you have to have signed in at the back stating you want to speak. It's your name and your address. When you come up, your name and your address. If you have not signed that piece of paper, once this meeting is called official, you cannot come up and speak unless we all agree to let you come up. So it's part of just the procedure. So if you didn't sign up and you want to speak, please just head on down there to the back and sign your name and let us know that you want to speak. All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. March 3rd, 2026, Planning and Zoning meeting. Bud, did you want to give us a prayer, please?
Let us pray. Oh, dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to discuss the needs of the city and the county. May you bless us in all decisions that we make, that we make the right decision to benefit the most. For these things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Y'all stand, please. We're going to say the pledge.
There's the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to be speaking a lot, I think. Pen. Push it.
That's right.
All right, we do have a quorum here. All 6 members are here. Leslie just stepped out for a second. We'll go approve the minutes when he gets back. I'd like to welcome Caitlin Rogers, the far end down here. She's joining the board. Matt Milburn, after his 2 years on the board, decided to step down, and Caitlin has volunteered and was appointed by the town of Deering to take his job. So I'm glad y'all come out. That's why you're all here. So many people, just for Caitlin. So, Caitlin, we welcome you on board. Oh, there is
In the hot
the,
seat tonight, though. That's
that's right. We're gonna let you do all the speaking.
Would you introduce the people on the board, so those of us who don't know who they are?
I can do that. My name's Paul Coughlin. I'm the chairman. Miss Penny on the right, Steve Wilson, Bud Langford, Lungsford, sorry. Miss Georgia Hobbs, and then Miss Caitlin Rogers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, tonight we're going to consider the approval for a special exemption for a data center on parcel 00710034. I'm just gonna wait till Leslie comes back in. I wanna look through the sign-in sheet and then we'll start this meeting on. Typically, when we have a large crowd, we have a group for something or a group against something, we would have a representative of each side come up and speak. That's usually limited to about 10 minutes, both for your presentation on either side. I'm just looking through the number of folks who want to speak. Not so bad. Typically, if you want to come up and speak, like I said, you come to the podium, state your name, your address, and then you have 3 minutes to speak. And let me figure out how many folks want to speak, because we may be rude and cut you off. But we do have a little leniency to let folks talk a little longer. It's not too bad. I got a maybe. 30 minutes, so we'll see. 3 minutes would be good. Thanks, Leslie. Thanks, when we call for folks to come up and speak, I am going to ask that anybody that's property that touches this property, if you want to come up and speak, I want you to come first because I want to hear you. And as the meeting goes on, if it gets too long, some folks won't probably or may not be able to speak. But if your property adjoins this property that is under review tonight, and you want to speak, when I ask for speakers, please be the first to put your hand up and come on up. All right. I did announce the new business, Leslie. The only thing I didn't have was the minutes of, that was November meeting.
January the 6th, yeah.
That was January? Yeah, February didn't have a meeting. But we can approve them at the end. Everybody else got the sign-in sheet. I didn't see the minute sheet. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have minutes.
No, that's not the minute sheet. We'll do that after. All right, let's open this up. Go ahead, Leslie, and you can start us
Good
off.
evening, good evening, good evening. The applicant is requesting a special exception to allow the development of a data center on parcel 007-10034. The applicant is requesting approval to develop a large-scale data center campus commonly referred to as Project Azalea. This project has been submitted for regional review under DRI 4602 and has been forwarded for Planning Commission consideration and recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Facts and findings. The subject property is located on Randall Hunt Road. Surrounding properties are primarily rural in character and consist of undeveloped land and low-intensity uses. Properties immediately adjacent to the proposed site have been approved for a solar panel farm. It is inside the countryside character area according to the 2025 comprehensive plan. It is outside the Ussery Pond overlay. Questions from the community have been geared towards water consumption, electricity use, and effects on the environment. 400 megawatts of new power electrical load capacity at full build-out. There's going to be 30,000 gallons of water use per day. Water and sewer provided by the city of Thompson. The water lines along Howard Road, Old White Oak Road, and Boneville Roads are 8-inch lines. There is no sewer or natural gas in the area. Per the CSRA Regional Commission, the proposed project's estimated value at build-out is $1 billion. Estimated annual local tax revenues likely to be generated is $25 million. Per the CSRA Regional Commission, the regional workforce is sufficient to meet employment demand generated by the development with an estimated generation of 125 full-time jobs. The developer has not requested any tax abatements. The developer's project history includes 2 data center developments in North Carolina. Alternatives. The planning board approves the special exception. Number 2, the planning board approves special exception with conditions. Number 3, the planning board denies the special exception. Number 4, the planning board tables for further information. The recommendation. Staff encourages the Planning Commission to evaluate the potential economic benefits, environmental impacts, infrastructure demands, and any other public effects associated with the proposed development. The Planning Commission should weigh those factors along with public input, prior board actions, and consistency with the county's comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, and long-term planning objectives in making its determination. And then we have our zoning application and our supporting documentation. We mentioned that it was on parcel 007-10034, Randall Hunt Road. It's going to take up approximately 200 acres. It's approximately, like I said, 200 acres. Location provides immediate access to major electrical infrastructure. Site characteristics support large-scale development potential. This parcel was included in the special exception granted by the BOC for the solar panel farm. And this is zoned R1. It's adjacent to Georgia Power Substation, high-capacity electrical infrastructure immediately available, direct frontage on Rendell Hunt Road, large tract suitable for utility-intensive development, strategic regional location within McDuffie County. This is what the campus would look like with their own substation. Here's a map of where the proposed location is going to be, and also a map of where the solar farm and how big it's going to be. Again, that proposed location is just going to stay in that red line, and the green is the solar farm. Water line locations, all lines are 8 inches. There is no sewer currently. Water lines are on Howard Road, Old White Oak Road, Boneville Road. And the data center parcel is also identified on the map as well. Countryside character area is in pink. The Ussery Pond overlay is light blue. This is a R1 zoning, and the data center location is identified with DC. Considerations. Possible requests or conditions for developers. A letter of will serve from Jefferson Electric. A letter of will serve from the City of Thompson. Enhanced buffer requirements. Berms, vegetative buffers, environmental monitoring plan, enhanced setback requirements, roadway improvements, water sewer upgrades and improvements, downcast lighting, noise reduction measures, no groundwater withdrawal, and decommissioning provisions. This is the presentation.
All right. The folks that are proposing the data center are here.
Yes.
They have a presentation they'd like to come up and then probably be a bunch of questions.
Hopefully that'll come up. Yeah, okay, perfect. Cameron Grogan, 1210 Thompson Bridge Road, Gainesville, Georgia, 30501. Thank you all for having us here tonight and hearing our proposal. I've got a couple slides as well. They kind of just go on what Leslie already had, but just want to all look at this in context that it's been discussed a couple times tonight, that this was a 200-acre parcel that was originally included in the roughly 2,700 acre solar farm, and the sellers have taken that back and contracted with us to propose a data center. We also neighbor Georgia Power. They have the substation there, and then about 50 additional acres that they already have a BESS project approved. That's a battery energy storage system. So they're also going to be developing that portion. So I want to just talk real quick about a few items here that I think will come up later. Oh, there we go. So I'll just leave that up. So one thing is water, and Leslie mentioned it, and I just want to hone in on it because there's a lot of misinformation about water. I think some context taken from very, very old data centers that these take millions of gallons of water a day. The new chips, the new computers, the new systems that are put in new data centers today have to operate on a closed loop cooling system. That is a chiller outside, the water comes in warm, or comes in cool, cools the equipment, leaves warm, goes back into the chiller and is cooled. It's a continuous loop, doesn't leak, doesn't evaporate. It's filled, and it cools the systems. It's not air, it's not millions of gallons. So really, the initial infill of water for the cooling system. And then we're simply talking about flushing toilets for the employees. It's typical water sewer usage every day. So 30,000 gallons a day is what we're requesting from the city. To give you some context, that's about 120 home neighborhoods. Different jurisdictions have different numbers, but kind of the standard barrier is 250 gallons a day per household. So that's 120 homes. So again, want to look at this in the context of any other development, right? Whether this is going to be a solar farm, as it's already approved, or a neighborhood or an industrial park. That's the context I think we need to look at it in. So we're only requesting 30,000 gallons a day. The other thing is power. Data centers do take power. The reason this site makes sense is because of the infrastructure that's there. That regional substation, as you guys can see on the map, or if you've driven by it even more so, it is a massive regional substation. It's not a little substation that, you know, this takes power from Vogel and disperses it. So that's what makes this site attractive, in the power lines. You'll see some data centers, you'll read about data centers. I've watched zonings for data centers that drive me nuts because I know the power lines are a mile away, 2 miles away. That data center most likely won't happen, or it'll cost probably $500 million to get the power lines there, numerous easements that you got to go to private homeowners and ask for. So when you hear about data centers happening, look at that. This has the infrastructure. Those are the power lines we need. We don't have to bring them from anywhere, get easements, add them. In the city of Atlanta, the big data center to the west of the city, they've had to extend the lines. I've seen homes with a big new power pole straight in the front yard. So that's why this site is attractive, is it has the infrastructure there. The power, when you hear 400 megawatts, it's a lot of power. That power is not power that's on the grid today. So let's just, for an example, let's say McDuffie County and Thompson and Deering take 200 megawatts. That we're not taking 100 of those megawatts. This 400 megawatts is not power that's on the grid today. We'll buy it from a wholesaler, which is basically a generation, basically a power plant. We'll buy new electrons, and that will be injected onto the system. It could be close by, it could be in the west part of the state, but it's injected into the system, and then you get studies that show how much this system can take, right? So if this substation and these power lines have a gigawatt of capacity, because they don't just serve right here. Like I said, it's a regional substation. It goes all throughout the state and southeast for that matter. They'll tell me you have X megawatts, and to improve it or to add what you need, you have to spend X amount of millions of dollars. That is on us. That is a project expense, and that is most projects will have some kind of monetary upgrade to the system. Some don't. It very seldom, but because there's just a lot of capacity on the system. But so it's again, just to reiterate, it's not there's, it's not like an interstate has this many cars and we're just going to add this many cars to it. It's like building a lane on top of it. And so the power that we take is not even power that's on the grid today. We will buy that, and it'll come in a couple of years. The last thing, two more things, but one of the arguments that you hear right now is about power bills. Nationally, across the nation, yes, since about 2019, power rates have gone up about 35%. There's even, you can almost draw it to the day, if you look at charts, and it sounds crazy, but from when Russia invaded Ukraine. And gas prices are one of the biggest drivers of what we've seen when you've seen your power bill go up, $20, $30, $40 recently. That's a pass-through that Georgia Power, the EMCs, if they pay X for gas, they charge you X. It's not a profit. That's what they pass off. Gas prices soared when that invasion took place. You can see it across charts. So the national average has increased. That's the biggest driver. It increased right about the time, yes, data centers have increased construction in the past 5 or 6 years. A couple of studies that really show that there's not much of a correlation between the data centers are the ones driving up the bills. One, like I said, it was a net across the nation, not just where there's data centers. Out of the 16 states with the highest concentration of data centers, 12 of those states' increase in power bills was actually lower than the national average. Lastly, the state that had the highest power bill increase over the national average, almost double the national average, I think, is Maine. Maine has 2 data centers. Power bills have gone up. I'm not arguing that, but I don't think you can draw the direct comparison to data centers. Last thing I'll say, just because I know the staff report mentioned it. We've spoken to Tony Daniels, trying to work with the city on water and sewer. Water, we have 2 different loops of water, so whether we grab one or both and make it a loop system, we've already looked at that with them. We would pay for those upgrades. We would bring water. As far as we extend it, if anybody else can get it, we're happy to. It could be an increase for any neighbors where we have to extend it to us and it passes another property owner. Sewer is down Old White Oak Road, so it's not at the property, but it's close enough that when we looked, they were the first people we spoke to months ago when we looked at this project and talked about taking a lift station to that sewer. So it's not as close as I'd like for it to be, but it's definitely we could use existing right of way. We could put in the infrastructure to get to sewer. Again, that is 100% on the that's a development expense. Not looking for any subsidies or any help there. The other thing I'll mention just real quick, I might be running out of time, but kind of want to hit these things before we hear about them later, is environmental and emissions and everything. We like to say a few things. One, this is the first step in a lot of approvals we have to get, right? The land use is going to be the first one. Local, state, federal, rules, regulations, EPD, everybody that's going to look at our runoff, make sure we're not disturbing any wetlands. If we're crossing a creek, we have the correct buffers, we're using the correct culverts. We're not looking to purchase any wetlands mitigation on this project. You'll see the creek. Actually, some of that parcel that one does better, but we're not looking to cross the creek on that north side. We already have a natural buffer to the residences that we share a property line with on that side. And again, a data center does not emit emissions, hazardous waste. I know some people have talked about the water system, and I saw somebody in county next door said, what about the water that I put in my baby's formula? This is just like an industrial building, or an office building for that matter, or a neighborhood. It's flushing the toilet, break room, washing hands. It's not the water from the cooling system, which isn't even hazardous, but this is just like any other development. Lost battery. And and then the generators. The generators are diesel generators. We've already proffered up some conditions, buffers, things we can talk about tonight. One of those that we would use Tier 4 generators. Hospitals have generators. I assume this building has a generator. They're for emergency purposes only. This building, you could not operate a data center full time on generators. You would have trucks just constantly coming in delivering diesel. They're for emergency, and they would test them about once a month for at most 20 minutes. We were proposing Tier 4, just like what you're seeing in a hospital. They're the cleanest, they're the quietest. There's sound mitigation, there's barriers, there's extended smokestacks you can do to keep the noise down. Again, only when you're testing them. Other than that, this building would have the same noise as an industrial building, minus the trucks coming in and out and the beeping when they're backing up. So again, just want to listen to the public. I'll come back up if I have time and you know, discuss.
We'll ask a few questions first before you sit back down, just to get some of that out of it.
Can I ask one quick question, just to clarify?
You can? Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Just for anybody, everybody who don't know or whatever, what exactly is the data center for? What's it needed for?
Yep. It's needed for, like when I'm in the airport today and I look around, just everybody's on their phone, right?
Yep.
It's, I hate to even say it, or when I'm at dinner and I'm seeing kids on their iPads, it's used every moment of the day. I mean, so the data center is housing computers. That's it. It's not, again, it's not emissions. It's not hazardous waste. It is a series of computers, and it's so that our computers can be this big, you know, or fit in your pocket, right? So when you have your phone sitting idle right now, your pictures of your kids and, you know, your animals and your YouTube videos you watch, they're not on your phone. They're in a data center. First data center I ever worked on right out of college was in 2010, 2011. It was for American Express, and it was specifically for its travel points. Even that, something so, you know, specific. And it was like a 300,000 square foot data center in North Carolina. And I think they're about to expand on some additional land they have. So it's everything we touch every day. It's my Netflix that I want to watch later when I get home. It's in a data center. It's not on my TV. So now you're seeing, they've been around forever, right? About 50% of the data centers that exist today have been built in the last 10 years. The other 50% were 10 years beyond, like the data center I worked on in 2010. Banks have their own data centers. The government has their own data centers. And now you're just seeing more of the AI, right? And that is why there's more of them, because that is becoming, you know, more popular, more, you know, my feeling on it right now is when I was in college and I used Amazon to buy a book, right? And now I can't get my wife to stop buying Amazon, you know, there's just dog food, everything.
So you're
right?
basically saying it's needed because for us to have this electrical, social media, everything we do on our phones, computers, there's so much out there, it's got to go somewhere.
We're creating it. And, you know, government and, you know, but yes, everything that we do every day, files, I'm sure you guys use Dropbox when you're working here. Everything we use on a day-to-day basis uses
Cost of convenience.
Exactly. So, and again, you know, my partner and I were talking about it earlier. You can't put them everywhere, right? You know, this infrastructure with the substation and the power lines. That's a good thing. I know it feels like they're coming, you know, but there's not. It's not like you can just. And again, a lot of these that you've read about, they'll never come. I can guarantee
So what
you.
determines where you put them?
What determines where you
Yeah.
put them? That power infrastructure is the first thing, right? So, you know, a substation close by helps. The power lines are the most important. But they also have to be the big power lines, right? Not just little. And
Transmission line.
it's got to be transmission lines, exactly. That's your first thing, right? Utilities, water are your second thing. You at least need water close by. Some will tell you, oh, we can do it without it. You got to have it close by. Those are the biggest things, having the transmission lines.
One of the things I have on the, just the list of possible requests was here, it talks about a letter of will serve from Jefferson Energy. So, and you touched on it there, and in basically the Central Savannah River report that was created, the county had done, it does discuss the power on the property and it actually says that the energy supply is not available to serve the project.
You're right, and yeah.
On site, it's not there. I understand that because it's just a timber track. Explain to me what and how the will serve from Jefferson Energy. In order for you to build your data center, they're going to have to tell you, supply you. So how does that process?
Yep, correct. Yeah, absolutely. So we've discussed with them, right? Not to say, because I've heard people say this before, that it has to be zoned before they'll talk to you. That's not true. They'll talk to you. It does cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for each study to get these studies moving. We spend a lot of money, but there's some expenses that we don't go with I don't just want to light money on fire, right? Until we at least have a potential, property where I can build it. So I'll say that. Now, we have software that you can look on, that we pay for, that you can look at the power lines and they can tell you to some degree of certainty how much capacity is on those lines. So we know it's sufficient, right? But yes, we will have to get those letters, that approval. To your point, yeah, I can't go get 400 megawatts tomorrow. Absolutely not. Have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, get those studies, go buy the power. To do that, you have to put up millions of dollars in letters of credit to secure that power. Because a power generator is going to go spend millions of dollars to generate that power. And if I go away, they want my money to fund the project. So we will absolutely have those before an LDP. Before, you would never move dirt without having all that in place. And again, software, we're only here because it makes sense, because we know that there's some capacity there. The transmission lines are not small or outdated. They're exactly what we need. But I need to get this step done and then really start pursuing those conversations.
So if you don't get the letter to serve, you can't build it.
Exactly.
So, let me follow up with that. As I understand it right now, you do not have a letter to serve with either Georgia Power or Jefferson Energy.
Correct. No, sir.
You hadn't done a power study. Have you done a power study?
We have not done a power study because that's where I have to stroke them big checks to do a power study.
You kind of asking us to approve something without knowing whether you go get power or not. I mean, there's a possibility both of them turn you down. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
That is a possibility.
That's a
The
possibility.
power bill is not,
Yeah.
the power is not available.
Not a. But let me ask you another question.
Yes, sir.
What's the end user of this data center? Have y'all gotten a written agreement who's gonna use this
Again,
data center?
so we work with a handful of the end users and the hyperscalers, right? Again, I'll use an example of a grocery store or a fast food restaurant, right? Let's just simplify it. If you've seen a Kroger or oftentimes there is a developer developing that and creating the zoning and the infrastructure and all the improvements for that piece of land. And then does it become a Publix, a Kroger, a Whole Foods, or an Aldi, right? And these developers work with those groups. I can't get them to, they can say, yeah, we love the area, we love the transmission lines, but they're not going to pick up my phone. Well, they will, but they're not going to sign a document like you asked about if I don't even have zoning. So that's the first step, right? Then the power study. So there's steps to this. And I always like to say this is an early step. I can't
You
I
get
can't
that
have a
before
lease
it comes
signed with a
before the commissioners?
hyperscaler. What's that?
Will you get that
In 2
done,
weeks? No,
end
sir.
user?
No, not until.
So we
Now,
don't know who's
you-
gonna use it.
I could have that before I close on the land and start developing the land. We would have that before we close and we start moving dirt. You'll have power study. You'll have end user. You'll have concrete, not just a conceptual plan.
Yeah.
You'll have this is where the buildings are. This is exactly where the substation is. This is exactly where I'm getting the water from. So again,
We'll have all that documentation
all
before
that,
you break ground.
1,000%. If there's a shovel out there and we all have a groundbreaking, or I'll have my own, that will all be in place. I'm not going to go start developing this thing and then say, hope somebody comes along. You know what I mean? Just like the Kroger developer that I just stopped at a second ago, they didn't do that either. They got the mixed use development in place. They got some tenants. They got this, and then, hey, we've got a great zone shopping center here on 30 acres, Kroger, I think this would be great for you. And before they moved dirt, they had a signed 20-year lease with Kroger.
Under the CSRA report that they did, they talk about the build-out cost, and I want to just get those numbers from you confirmed. And then looking at what's generating tax revenue. In that report, it says $1 billion to build out, 25 million combined in taxes. You agree with those facts?
I do, yeah.
The jobs, you're reading off a lot of reports about the amount of jobs that are created. I understand there's a lot of jobs created building the facility. In the report, it's talking about 125 jobs. I'm assuming that number's come through you. Is that correct?
Through us and our partners that we work with.
So what, I guess, what are all those folks doing up there?
Yeah,
in a data
absolutely.
center? Because most of us have not been in a data center. I haven't.
Yeah, so you have engineers.
Yeah.
You have the MEP, but all your mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers in there full-time. Also, let me step back. These facilities are running 24/7.
Right.
So that's 3 shifts, you know what I mean? So, really a 1.5 million square foot campus, you're talking about 30 to 40 people each shift. So it's not much, but they're good jobs. They're high paying jobs. They're either engineers or they're, the IT people that might not be an engineering degree. And then of course your some of that's there'll be probably additional third party with security, grounds, that would be security 24/7. This would be a secured site gate. But yeah, that's, you have your software engineers, your critical infrastructure, and then the bulk of it's probably your engineers. But again, that number, think of it as 30 to 40 employees per shift.
All right. One other question I just have, and it's out of the possible conditions that Leslie put on the board. We talked about environmental monitoring. What do you guys do? And I understand that it's internal buildings and it's computers, but what about discharge, runoff? I mean, you're going to have containment before it leaves. Do you do any testing?
Like
Well-
monthly or quarterly testing?
Yeah, absolutely. But they're in everything. So, the generators, if we go to those are regulated by the EPD,
Right.
right? I mean, just like the gas station we stop at today, that has underground tanks. Same tanks would be here, right, to store fuel for those generators.
So could those be publicly to wherever anybody could just, turn it into the county to make sure they're done and that kind of thing?
Reports?
Yes, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Right, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, and like runoff, stormwater runoff, again, I just like to say, data centers, I get it. They are, there's a lot of discussion about them right now. Same reporting and everything else, and the same discharge and the same everything else that if this were a truck terminal, you know what I mean? They don't skirt by any local, state, or federal, any other reporting that we would have to do during construction. It would be your NPDES, stormwater runoff, all your erosion control. Again, luckily this site doesn't have a lot of wetlands. We're not coming in here and saying, don't worry, I'll get some credits. And I know it's a 100-acre site, 50 of it's buildable, but I'm going to get a bunch of credits and make 100 of it buildable.
But are those reports like monthly or quarterly, or how do you do that?
However, that if you want some additional reporting, we can talk. But whatever local, state, federal
Okay.
requires of me, we provide. And again, it's no different reporting than any other development, because there's really not any other.
Right.
It's not like.
Yeah.
It's not, just to your point, you mentioned runoff. The runoff is just like the runoff from another industrial building. It's not runoff from a cooling system or anything like that.
Correct.
That water's
loop.
circulating. It's not, I should have used this example an hour ago, but it's like your car. Your car has water in it, and it's not, it ain't going anywhere.
Right. No, I was actually addressing just runoff from the property.
Oh, yeah.
Building the same with
Yeah,
concrete, that
absolutely.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Has to be contained before it can be discharged.
1000%.
That's the noise.
Yeah.
Can you touch just a little bit? Some people have concern about the noise of these facilities?
Yeah, yeah. So again, a lot of the older data centers that didn't use the closed loop cooling technology, they're a little louder because they got a bunch of HVAC units. They're air cooled,
Gotcha.
right? That's, you could stand by one and hear the hum of just like your house when you're in the backyard and your AC clicks on, right? So newer ones, quieter. Not to say they're as quiet as can be, but they're quieter. We've agreed to, we set a proffered condition, with most of our borders, sorry, we're not looking at it, being the solar farm and Georgia Power, we proffered, a 50-foot buffer along those property lines and kind of not really a decibel limit, because I don't think the solar farm cares. But against the few residences that we do border on the north, and again, we have some natural buffer, we have the creek, we want to leave natural. We proffered a 500-foot buffer from those property lines to anything, to any road, to any building, to any generator, to anything. And I would be willing to go so far as 500 feet from those property lines. I won't even clear, you know what I mean? Like my property line's there, I can't even go clear it and then say, I'll go put some trees back. Don't worry, I want to keep it. That's the best buffer there is,
Yep,
right?
natural.
And we've proffered a 70 decibel limit at those property lines. Again, we'll do studies now, we'll do studies after construction, we'll do studies before we turn the lights on. We'll continue to do studies to make sure. And if we start construction and we go out there and it's 75, there's things we can do, right? You can put up berms, you can put up parapets, so we can control getting that decibel to 70. But we'd make sure in construction documents and everything that we're gonna hit that.
Okay. Ms. Penny, you have any questions? I'm gonna open up to you.
Just give them one more thing to clarify and then I'll hush. All infrastructure for building this, whether it be water, power, this and that and other thing, is not gonna affect the taxpayers. Nothing is charged to us, period.
Zero. All infrastructure costs is us. Paving Randall Hunt Road, extending the water from Randall Hunt or from Old White Oak, going down Old White Oak to get sewer, that is an expense on us.
Let me ask one more question,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
be quiet too. Have y'all got our water engineer saying that we can produce 30,000 more gallons a day?
Good question. Thank you for asking that. So 3 months ago, when we met in the office, they could actually produce a lot more than that. If you go to, but we just want to, we know it's a hot topic, but it's a hot button.
Right.
So we're getting it as low as we can. If you go to the Thompson, I think it's I don't know if it's the McDuffie Thompson or the Deering, but the Economic Development and the Water Sewer website, they have capacity from, is it Ussery Pond? Am I saying that right? And another basin of 6 million.
Clarksville Lake.
Clarksville.
Yes, sir. Sorry, thank you. Of 6 million gallons per day.
I know the water's not in the problem, but I'm talking about processing that water.
The
Can
sewer.
we process that much
Yeah.
more a day? That's
Yes.
what
We're looking-
treatment plant.
Yeah, we're looking for like an engineered document that our water facility treatment plant can handle what we already have, plus the added water y'all are gonna be using, and we know the sewage goes
Is
through
gonna
there
go,
too.
which is a good thing, right?
So
Because it ends up.
it would make, I think, all of us feel better if we had a engineered firm come in and have documentation that our water facility is up to date, that can handle all of this.
1,000%. So typically, what I've been trying to get, and I'm not trying to, typically we get a will serve letter from the city or the county that says, you're requesting this, you either can or can't have it. Because I can't get an engineer to go into I think your department should have that information. I know, to your point, the capacity.
But I'm talking about, I know you talked about our guys, but I'm talking about, like, say, an outside firm that specializes in checking out what we have, just to have an outside firm to do it. I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
I'm
it's a
asking.
possibility. Yeah. And we definitely, of course, during the engineering
We'll do a
and
recommendation.
LDP, it would, but I have been trying to work with the city and say, look, I know you guys have 4 million gallons of water a day that you can provide. I need less than 1% of that, and 30,000. Also tying into the sewer is a benefit, right? Because you're gonna treat that, but it's also gonna go back into the source, right?
Right.
So I'm not just taking that water and not replenishing it. That would all have to be checked out, but it should be a simple, from the water and sewer department.
It should be simple,
got
they can read our meters, but sometimes they can't. I ain't being ugly, I'm just being honest.
I got it. Yeah.
I ain't being ugly, I'm just
You
being
want to
honest.
state anything for the record?
Anyway, I'm done for right now.
Miss Georgia, anything? Because I'm gonna open it up for
Questions have been asked.
Sorry.
Okay. Miss Caitlin?
I just want to be clear, we're not drilling any wells,
No wells,
all
zero.
from the city.
I wouldn't be here if water was 5 miles away. And you'll have people, again, hopefully not here, but let me warn you, if people come and they say, look at this great site, don't worry about water, don't worry about sewer, don't worry, the power lines are way over there, it ain't gonna happen. So, municipal water, no wells.
All right, I'm gonna let you sit down, take a little break.
You want a water?
Borrow one of your waters.
Might need a water, yeah. And I'm gonna open it up for the folks in the audience. Like I said earlier, if your property, resident, touches this property and you want to speak, I'd like you to come up now before we get everybody else going, because if it goes a little long, come on up, sir. If it goes a little long, we have to cut somebody off. I want to make sure the residents that are directly adjacent to this get to speak to us.
My name is Andy Stevens. I live at 1368 Hampton Davis Road.
What's up, Andy?
So, and
Let's bring the map back up. I just want to make sure that that's up when folks are talking. If there's any
I'm the
questions. that people
closest resident to the proposed site. Roughly around 3,000 foot property line to property. And I've been having quite a fun time on the little McDuffie County fun page, but defending myself. But if we can handle the infrastructure, the water, the power, and all that can be taken care of, and proven to be taken care of, I'm for 100%. When I first moved there, Georgia Power upgraded their big substation since I've been there, and I don't remember nobody giving me a phone call asking me did I care about them buying 300 acres right next to me and everything else around me. And it hums like a bumblebee in a Coke can. So that's not been the issue. That's why you say, you talk about the sound and different things, and talk about polluting the air with the generators and so forth. I mean, I've been around diesel burning machines since I was a kid, and I'm still kicking. So I'm not worried about some little generator coming on once a month and just ruining ruining my air quality. So my thing is, I'm the closest one. If I'm not fussing, then why is somebody across town raising Cain? As long as we can handle, what is needed to do, and it's not going to hurt the citizens of McDuffie County and Thompson or Deering. So I don't know what else I can say other than let's do it.
I just want to make sure you get your chance to speak.
All right.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you. All right, anybody else out here in the crowd that touches the property or property touches this?
My name is Jim Rogers, 1021 Howard Road. I thought I was the closest one to this thing.
Well, you guys can figure that out.
From my back property line to the closest building is probably 150, 200 yards. But we do own some land, and that there is some buffer there. But the thing is in my backyard, and I'd like for it not to be there. I'll start with a little story that's kind of funny. You got to promise not to tell my kids or my grandkids.
Might be on Facebook.
About 2 years ago, I was approached by somebody representing companies that wanted to develop first the solar farm. And we were talking pretty good money. Then I got approached by somebody that wanted to develop data centers. You would not believe the number they told me. And I had to tell them that this property had been in my family for almost 100 years. My wife wants to be there. She's the reason we're living out there instead of downtown. We both want to leave their toes up, and so I turned them down. I told them they couldn't tell my kids either.
Understand.
We're talking multi-million dollars just to buy the land. So I've got a strong connection there. I would like to ask you to save these folks a lot of money. They were talking about how much money it was gonna take to do all the studies that they're gonna have to do and all the infrastructure they're gonna have to put in. I'd like to see you save them all that money. I'd really like to do them a favor. The only thing that we have to go on is the history of how these things have gone around the country. And there have been water problems. There have been light pollution problems. There have been noise pollution problems. I know you've never been lied to by somebody that wanted you to approve something before. And I'm not gonna call this fellow a liar. I would
be
not
nice.
do that. But I believe you may have had the facts fudged on you just a little bit here and there. That's really about all I've got to say. I don't have any fancy presentation. I don't have any facts and figures because they're not available to me.
Right.
The little bit that was available to me, I just have a hard time believing.
Just for clarification, your address is on Howard Road.
Yes, sir.
You talked about the buffer being 500 foot on the residential. And you're saying your property was,
We got a good bit of property there. My driveway is almost a quarter mile long, going
Okay.
straight back toward this place.
you said the first building was how close to your property?
The building's gonna be about 200 yards from my back property line.
Okay. So beat.
I could sit in one of my deer stands and hit golf balls on top of it.
Good shot.
And I'm sure they're not gonna let the deer come across like they used to.
Right. All right. I just want to clarify the distance. I was confused at first. I thought you said 200
Yeah,
feet.
if you put a map back up, I can show you where I am.
Yeah. I'd ask Leslie. He's working on that. I know roughly where it is. I used to actually cut hay out there on the Rivers track.
Yeah, we're right next to that.
Yeah. I know exactly where you are. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, anybody else in the audience, property abuts up to this location? Nope. Okay. Now, I can't tell exactly if this is a yes or a no. I think it may be a yes. Michael Brooks? Not sure if you want to speak. I don't know if that's an X or all right, so it's an X. The next one's an X. Those are all no's. That's no. This is Patrick Ward or Wood, one of the two. 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. I'm new to the area, about 3 years. I'm an engineer. And
Could you state your address, please? Could you state your address?
603 Dogwood Drive,
Okay, yep.
back here in Thompson, a good ways from the site. I came because I heard about the project last Thursday, and I've looked into it a little bit. I've seen studies showing that the cost of providing services to data centers is far, far less than the taxes received. And that puts us all in a healthy position. Should enable taxes to be reduced or provide extra money for schools in the community, beautify it. One way or another, that's going to add to the property values. A more pleasant community with lower taxes, a house ought to be worth more. That's just common sense. And I think is a heck of an opportunity for the community. And I urge you to do due process, looking for anything that might be negative. but I hope that you will not dawdle and you will make a quick resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for speaking. There's a yes. Courtney Eskew? Come on up and speak. Just state your address. It's for the record. It's required under our zoning.
Okay, 329 Greer Circle, so
you.
right near Hickory Hill. So I'm not gonna come up here and speak too much on water and electric and stuff like that. I'm not any kind of expert or anything like that. Some of my biggest things is, one of the things as I was reading on it, it said about 50 vehicles during peak hours and such and such. So if you look at locations and things like that, we're talking 50 vehicles added to what is already school traffic in the mornings and commuter traffic in the morning and things of that nature. Now we're talking about Randall, that road, which is not paved. They're talking about paving it.
Yes.
Who's going to take care of it after it's paved? Because we're already,
If approved, it would have to be built to the county standards, and then the county would approve that it was built properly, and then they would assume the road.
and then the
Is
county,
my assumption.
the county would maintain it as we do other roads. So that is a cost to the county in order to maintain that road that's now being heavily used by 50 added vehicles during peak hours. And then they're going to pave it, and then they're going to put, construction equipment on it and all those types of things. And I don't know about everybody else, but I know around my roads and stuff like that, especially post-hurricane when we had all of those, Georgia Power, all of the tree removal, everything like that, it hurt our roads. It really did. It caused damage to the roads. It took a really long time to get those roads fixed. Some of them just now getting fixed. And that was a cost that we saw and we took on as a county, and therefore we took on as residents of this county. So that is kind of one of my concerns on that, is not just paving that road, but we're going to need to widen that road. I don't know if you guys have ever been down it. It's not a wide road. You can get 2 vehicles kind of comfortably on it if you try really hard. And if you're trying to get a bus down there and you've got construction equipment down there, we could see how that could quickly become a problem in that area. So that, and then my other thing is, I know they say everybody is like, oh, they're bringing in jobs, it's bringing in jobs, it's bringing in jobs. So we're going to bring in construction jobs. Okay, so are we talking outside construction companies bringing in their people, maybe hiring a couple people local? They come in for 6 months. We maybe get a couple people in McDuffie County who can get these construction jobs. And we got an influx of people for 6 months, going fast food, going here, but those aren't people that are investing in this community long term. And then we're talking about, okay, we can, 30 people, 3 rotations, all that kind of stuff. We've got mechanical engineers, we've got software engineers, we've got this, we've got that. I'm gonna be honest, McDuffie County does not supply that. We don't. That's not our bread and butter of our people. Now, eventually we've got a great high school with a great program, don't get me wrong, but that's just not something that we're seeing right now. So those people are going to come in from outside of this area to work at that facility. Awesome. They are most likely not going to be primarily living in McDuffie County. Okay, now it would be wonderful if we could get them in here. We can get them living in some of these nice, beautiful houses that are being built and everything like that, and get a couple people that way. Likelihood is not high that that's going to happen. A good chunk of jobs that the data center uses, especially some of their engineers that aren't on-site engineers, are their what do we call it?
Remote.
Yeah, those work from home type of people. So they're way out where, California, North Carolina, however where, but they're not here. And so that's kind of something that I've been thinking about is, they put out, it's jobs, it's jobs, it's jobs. But when you look at it and break it down.
3 minutes.
Oh, sorry. It's not jobs here. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll wrap that up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Teddy Love, did you want to speak from there? No, Teddy Love. I'm sorry, Teddy Love? There you go. I'm sorry. Wrong one.
I live nowhere near where this thing is gonna be built. I live at 2329 White Oak Road, Thompson, Georgia. The thing that worries me most about this is down White Oak Road in Columbia County, they just approved one, and I understand they've approved one in Columbia County on the other side of I-20. And now we're fixing to try to get somebody to approve one 10 miles from where we live on the White Oak Road. I've read a lot about them. We talk about all the stuff they do, but the biggest thing that concerns me, we're doing away with all of the habitat for the animals, places for our kids to play, and things that makes life of more quality. We're not gonna get the tax rate that they say we are. We hadn't gotten it from anything else, and I don't expect to get it from that. So I would like for y'all to consider the beauty of this county and the happiness of the people that live here on a regular basis, not on some firm in North Carolina, Florida. I don't care where they're from. Think about the people in McDuffie County.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Miss Riviera?
Tell her the address.
Yeah, she knows it. She's coming up there, sorry.
Gotcha.
A little hard time reading your handwriting. Mine's bad too.
I
You
don't
were
have any.
maybe, so I was the one to ask you.
Yes. Solana Rivera, 216 Hoy Street, Thompson. I don't have anything officially prepared, but I do want to kind of give light rebuttal to some of the things that I've heard brought up. Some of them being that, for starters, we as a county have to make this decision without understanding comprehensively the environmental impact of this project until it has been approved. And so in that case, we would still have the concerns and actively have to live through them after the project has disrupted our environment. And in addition to that, I believe that what we've been told so far does not represent what, say, a statistician or an engineer would have informed us about this project. One of the main things being that the representative today has told us that the project would be of no additional cost to the city of Thompson or the residents of McDuffie County. However, he also mentioned that the grid would be injected into ours, meaning that, from my interpretation, once the solar panels are set to a specific rate of wattage, if there's an influx at the data centers, that is offset into our grid that has been injected with theirs. So that, combined with the additional costs that we are not aware of yet, make this project a risk. Because once we have said yes, it becomes a lot harder to say no. And so I'm pro McDuffie County, not pro the data center.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. I cannot read that one at all. Radford Gate. Okay. I can't read your name. It may be Salter. 3642 Radford Gate.
I live on Radford Gay Road.
Come on up.
Can you come up to the podium, please?
2 miles down the house, down the road from where I live. So my concerns are the environmental things. I know that solar panels are not recyclable if they break. They do leach into the groundwater, and they leach into the ground, so there will never be able to be a farm there. I know where the property is. It's been vacant for a long, long time. And I would rather see a damn grocery store there instead of a data center. Because we don't have nothing. And it doesn't benefit the residents of McDuffie County. It's going to have a few jobs for a short time. And then what happens? And then we're talking about the roads and the destruction of the property. the noise pollution, the medical problems that is going to cause. Sure, you can put a buffer up, but that buffer still, noise travels. I mean, we hear the explosions from the chalk mines at my house. You hear the helicopters and the airplanes coming from Fort Gordon. They're putting a data center up there off Gordon Highway, down the road from the base, plus the data centers that they've got in Columbia County. So I really don't think another data center is really going to benefit us. It's going to promote a few jobs. What, 5 jobs? For how long? Because after the construction workers leave, it's like she said, they're all going to be gone. And what has it done to benefit McDuffie County? Besides destroying all the peacefulness in McDuffie County. And I think that's why people live here. And it might even be running people off because nobody wants to hear the noise. That's exactly what is happening in Columbia County. Sure, if you move from the city here, you're used to the noise, but when you've lived out here 40 and 50 years of your life and you hear all the quiet and the birds, when that data center comes, all that's leaving too.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate it. Breeze. 310 Lee Street. Sylvia Breeze, looks like Sylvia Breeze.
Ayla
Julie.
Breeze.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? 310 Lee Street. My biggest questions are making sure we have a plan in action for when the data center is no longer needed. Once you bury tanks in the ground, that property is now blighted. It can only be used for so many things and it becomes very hard to resell. What are we going to do with this big lot of land when technology changes and eventually evolves? You're talking 3 abandoned data centers within, 50 miles of each other. That's a big concern. Noise pollution, 70 decibels. That sounds like not a lot, but that's heavy traffic where there is currently no traffic. The gentleman did mention that there are older data centers where people are getting their information from. I would highly urge you guys to ask more specific question, like what is a current data center like the one that's being proposed for here? Can we get an address? Can we look at it? Can I see some, how long has it been running? What is the environmental impact after it's been established? What is happening around the property to, as people said before, the animals, the noise pollution after the establishment? Obviously there's going to be a disruption during construction. How does the earth heal itself around it? I just don't feel like it's a good move for the county without a few more questions. Our water system currently is not the best. And if we're talking, this is going to be 125 homes worth of water, would we rather put that on a data center employing 35 people or 100 people, or do we want to bring in 125 families? And I know everybody doesn't want to hear it, but a new construction neighborhood, that's more tax dollars, that's more revenue, that's more people in here building our community versus an eyesore. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
That's a maybe. Cassie Anderson, you were a maybe. No, okay. No problem. Charlie Newton.
Charlie Newton, 2057 Messina Road, and if I'm too informal, please tell me. Steve on the water side. I am the chairman currently of the Water Sewer Commission. 30,000 gallons is nothing on the water treatment side or the sewer treatment. If you want that from Carter and Sloop, I'll get it for you. Not a problem to get. Water's not an issue. I'm surprised we hadn't talked more about what this project would do for McDuffie County from a property tax and a sales tax standpoint. It's kind of being minimized. Currently, McDuffie County property tax, everything, all industries, all houses, generate approximately $24 million a year in property tax. This one facility, based on the value there, will generate $13.3 million a year. That's over half again as much as we're collecting now. If you take the tax paid on all homesteaded property in McDuffie County, that is $6.6 million. If you take the fire fee, which is a wildly unpopular thing, that's $1.6 million. That's $8.2 million a year based on the legislation in the Senate Georgia legislature right now. When this data center is in place, you could do away with the property tax as school and county tax on every piece of homesteaded property in McDuffie County. Do away with the fire fee and have $5 million left over to do good things for the city and county and town of Deering. It's the biggest opportunity we've had that I've ever seen. And I understand people's concerns about the water. It's not a problem. Georgia Power came and met with the Development Authority the other day. And I understand this is in EMC territory. But they addressed the power requirements not for this data center, but for the data centers across Georgia. And they talked about their infrastructure building and the build-out times of data centers. When those data centers start coming online, Georgia Power will have no problem providing the power needed. Now, they can correct me on the way power works, but what I'm told, this project is in EMC territory. But if Jefferson EMC decided to step back and said, okay, we don't have the power to handle it, Georgia Power can step in and provide it. So, again, it's a huge plus. And I didn't mention the sales tax. They're going to pay between $9 and $12 million a year in sales tax on the property they use. And that's where that $25 million has been batted around. It just kind of seems like it has no impact on anybody, but you're doubling the tax base in this community when you do that. And it will give us the ability to do some very good things. Final thing I'll say is about the noise. 70 decibels at the property line. I understand it's a rural area and people like their wildlife and all those things. I have Hoover treated wood right across the road from my farm. And those fans on those drying kilns, I guarantee you it's way louder than 70 decibels. And I have 2 bald eagles that live on my farm.
Thank you. Barbara Welcher? Barbara? Wilcher?
Good evening. I live at 1540 Carl Drive, Thompson, Georgia. And I'm neither pro nor con. I'm here for some information. First, I want to know if the data centers are privately owned, or how they financed. He said they cost $1 billion. How are they being paid for? With AI, every time I use my phone, if I mention a topic, it automatically gives me information on that. So, does it have anything to do with AI? And if so, once you collect this data, how's the data being used? Does it have anything to do with the information and all the data that was collected by Doge? I need to know that. Who owns the data centers? As I said, are they individually owned, or are they privately owned, or are they owned by the government, or what? What are the pros and cons for having a data center? As I already asked, how it will be paid for, what information is being stored, how that information is going to be used later on in relation to the citizens of McDuffie County as well as the United States of America. And what is the timeline or the projected time for completion of this data center? So those are some of the things I'd like to have answered by the gentleman here tonight.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There was one other person. Did I lose you? There.
And sir, one other question I need to ask.
Yep.
Do they emit radiation? And if so, how would that affect
Well, that's that.
the citizens here?
Okay.
So if y'all could answer those questions, I would appreciate it.
The last person that's signed up, Cable Cadell.
My address
Caleb?
is 1112 Old Washington Road.
Thank you.
So the lady before me asked a good question about whether the data centers have anything to do with AI. Because if they do, I find it hard to believe that the water impact wouldn't be pretty negative, because AI has been found to have consumed as much water as the entire water bottle industry. And also we have to remember that this data center doesn't exist in a vacuum. So I would like to know, like, along with like the negative effects that all the other data centers in this country have caused to their communities, if we decide to move forward with this, how would it contribute to, like, on a macro scale, how it would affect like the water and the electricity and those things. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. All right. That's everybody that signed up to speak. Sir, if you want to come back up, there are a few questions that I did, actually, one that the lady had mentioned there. The timeline, I'm kind of interested on that. Once approved, if approved.
Right.
How does that timeline work?
Yeah, so if approved, we start the engineering and LDP process with you guys, go through all those, local, state, and federal government, NPDES. That should take hopefully less than a year, probably about 8 months. And then this would also be built in phases. But we would get started, and the first phase should be done within about 2 years. So you'd look at, really 2029 would be fantastic. 2030, more realistic for power coming on board.
Completion? All
That would
phases?
be first, and then probably about 3 years for all phases.
All phases,
to be
okay.
complete.
What's the ratio of remote to local
Yeah,
full-time jobs?
thanks. I'm glad you brought that up. So when we give those projections, we try to actually only say who's going to be on site, right? So to her earlier point, there actually could be more employees contracted. They might come in every day or every once a week from Atlanta. They may fly in once a month from Denver. That's some contracted employees, like I said, security, maintenance, janitorial, but that's on site. That's on site. So again, if I can expound on that a little bit, I don't think it's a number that we should shake our heads at. I know some communities, you might not want a Kubota to come in and bring 3,500 jobs, right? Because where do they live? What do they do? Our streets, our traffic, our schools. This is a great, it's enough. It's good jobs. We had a recent hearing, and the gentleman that owned he was the manager of the Sunbelt Rentals across the street came out and spoke for us. And he said, I think he only had 6 employees. And he said this would change 6 guys' lives for the next 3 years. Again, that's the construction side. I know everybody's talked about the construction, but let's say you own a landscaping company here. This could change your life for the next 20, 30 years. Let's say you own a small, MEP business. This could change your life. You get the contracting job to go in there once a month and tune everything up. Let's say you're an engineer and you got to live in Atlanta of all places. You know what I mean? And crap, my family's in Augusta. I'd love to live on a quiet acre of land. So I get it. Maybe that person doesn't live here today, but I think they could, right? Or they don't want to drive 30 minutes from Augusta. So I think it's a great, it's a small chunk of jobs, but a good chunk of jobs, and ones that I do think could keep people here. In those neighborhoods, I passed them when I got off the interstate, new neighborhood. Let's fill them up, right? I know we talked about the 120 homes and the new houses that could come, and putting the approval or the land there. Us, everybody in this room with our home, we actually take more in taxes and services than we give in taxes. Doesn't feel that way when you pay those taxes, but the schools, the roads, the fire, the emergency, we take that and we give a little bit back. Loudoun County, Virginia, if anybody wants to talk about where has this happened before and, do the people have three arms? Loudoun County, Virginia has the highest concentration of data centers in the entire world, not just the country. They have studies, just recent studies, that have shown that data centers use about 4 cents in public service for every dollar they give in taxes. So this gives the taxes, like Charlie said earlier, close to double your guys' tax base. And some employees, right? Some of those might be new people and their kids are going to the school. Some may be within, right? So it's not going to overburden the school system. It's not going to overburden the road system. It's not going to overburden the emergency services. So I wanted to hit on that as well. Anybody have any questions, or can I answer some questions?
What's the average income?
The average income?
As a whole, I understand.
Yeah, so it'd be about, I just did one. I didn't do it for this county.
Right.
But I just did this for an Arkansas project we're looking at. The median income in this city was in the 40K range. That's household income. I broke down with a partner of ours the different rates and the different, all the way from the hourly job to the annual job, and it was about $67,000 a year for average employee. That was a bigger campus. It was going to house or employ about 225 people, not counting contractors, janitorial, security. We've mentioned, I keep talking about the environment because I knew this was going to come up, and I've only heard it mentioned, and I put in quotes, environmental things. These things have been around. These aren't new. These have been in people's backyards. These have been in, like I said, look at Loudoun County, Virginia, look at Douglas County. These things are around. I'm providing information, being called a liar. I think it should be both ways, right? Environmental things, I need to know what you're talking about. And somebody said, how the earth will heal around itself, just like any other development is how I would answer that. It's bigger, right? It's 200 acres, but if I don't develop it, it will be a solar farm. So it's either solar farm or this, and how it will heal itself and how the environment is impacted is just like the truck stop, the grocery store, the neighborhood, or the industrial truck terminal.
That was a question I did have, because we here previously approved the solar farm, the commissioners did. So you have an option, I'm assuming, with the solar farm folks, because it is still under the solar farm, approved as a solar farm.
It's approved as a solar farm.
It still is.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, still is. As part of the whole, and
Right,
they're
okay.
proceeding.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah. And let's see, the sound was compared to explosions at somewhere, I don't know where that was, in helicopters, right? So again, two different things, you know what I mean? The noise of a data center is, there's a data center, I guess it's not close to here, but there's one in Swanee, right on Satellite Boulevard. I've stood out by it and I can hear the cars going by. I don't hear the data center. You can drive by these things, you know. So again, there's no additional sound of a data center. It's cooling equipment, right? So there are HVAC units on the roof, similar to if you were to go to buy a hospital or anything like that, you're gonna hear sound. Most of those places you're gonna hear the cars going by instead. Water, I heard that it's not good. I don't know how it's not good. I just heard it was not good. I know that there's 4 million gallons a day in additional capacity. So the capacity is good. And I haven't read anything where the water quality is bad. And then I wanted to talk about the housing. So yeah, those are some things. Ma'am, you had some great questions and I appreciate it. It would be privately owned. We're not, selling to the government. That's not a client of ours.
Speak quick.
Approve. I gotta go. Real quick. So it's us. Like I said, we put the deal together. We get it shovel ready. We're the face. We're the closer person. They're closer to you guys. My partner likes to compare it because he went to Dairy Queen last night with his kids. That we can all take our kids and go buy ice cream sundaes tomorrow, or all the ingredients for it, or we can run by Dairy Queen. So Google, AWS, Amazon, all of those groups you hear about, they will go and buy the ingredients for the sundae sometimes, especially for a larger campus, 1,000 acres, a gigawatt. For a smaller one like this, they won't. They want to swing by Dairy Queen and pick it up, ready to go. So that's what we are. So it'll either go, when we close and dirt churns, it would be to one of those groups or to an operator that develops for those people. Again, I dumb it down. The grocery store earlier, a Chick-fil-A. Sometimes Chick-fil-A goes, they find the land, they zone it, they build it. Sometimes they buy a pad that's ready for a drive-through, and that developer could sell it to, Hardee's, Dunkin' Donuts, or Chick-fil-A. But privately owned, what they do with your information, same thing they do with mine. I mean, when I log on the internet now, I get a bunch of stuff about data centers. When my wife logs on, she gets, buy this again from Whole Foods. We live in a digital, world.
You said you
Yes.
a couple questions.
Okay. So, being that this is privately owned, can you tell us how will the local government ensure continued economic benefit if the ownership does change?
The ownership changed. So a couple of things. One, we split out the taxes with, and correct me if I'm going off what you're asking. The property taxes, we estimated that, right? So that would just be based on that development cost. Like I said, if a shovel's put in the ground and then it will be developed. They're not going to spend $1 billion and then go away. They're only if the project starts, it will finish. So those property taxes, that would be yours for the life of that. I think we ran a 20-year cycle and it was like $160 million. The other thing was the electricity taxes, right? So if this ended up becoming an industrial building instead, I guess you wouldn't get those. I think it's part of the SPLOST program, how you guys get some of that taxes. So we broke it up that way. If that kind of helps you see, okay, here's what we could get from property. But as long as it's, there's no, once this project's developed, you guys are reaping those benefits from taxes.
One thing that I had, just on that, renewing, how often do they upgrade the equipment? I know listening to about data centers and chips, it's quite often they're upgrading the equipment, so your tax value keeps reset.
That's in the sales tax and the property tax.
And the property tax,
so,
yeah,
right. So that's a real property tax.
Right.
And that's about every 3 years.
Right.
Is kind of the life cycle right now, right?
Okay.
Changes with new technology. We've met with contractors that said, we've already changed, we're in construction and we're sending stuff back to get new. You know, it's changing that quickly. But, you know, that's a typical life cycle. You know, I know in another hearing we had, not here, they mentioned the state of Georgia, which I think they're probably about to do away with it, has a sales tax. There's a break for data centers on sales tax. That's just the sales tax. That's not I don't pay any taxes on it. That's that 7% when they buy, you know, and that was that bill last year that the governor vetoed getting rid of it. So I want to say when you hear, because they thought like, oh, these guys are going to pay taxes because of that. That was sales tax on equipment only. So yeah, that's a real property tax that we haven't even.
Sorry to cut you off, but it went to your.
No, yeah, you're good, yeah. So I was just wondering too, why so close, being that we all know that Richmond County, Columbia County, and I understand you said, you know, McDuffie County had the infrastructure and all, but other counties also.
Mm-hmm.
What made you choose McDuffie County besides that we just had it ready to go? Is it because we're next door to Columbia County?
No, it had nothing. I actually wish they weren't around. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, it's competition, but I shouldn't say that. Don't put that on the news.
It's already there.
It's
already on there.
Rewind. We found the site, honestly. It was the site that came to us, you know, that we said, this makes sense. It wasn't, hey, let's go here because Columbia County's doing it. Columbia County actually created a data center zoning category, which actually, you know, that's why a lot of people flocked there. You know what I mean? Because they said, hey, they basically, when you do that, you kind of say, we're open to discussing data centers. I wanted to proffer conditions because you guys don't have that zoning, which is fine, but usually you create that zoning so you can have some conditions about it, right? Like we always say, let's decide, you know, if we're going to decide, can this property be developed? Do we want development? Do we want tax revenue? That's the first question. If it's no, we don't want development, we don't want tax revenue, no, we're good. And we were just told that by a county 2 months ago. No, we're good. Then that's one question. But if you do want it and you want incredible tax revenue with little, again, it's not 3,500 jobs, it's not 1,000 houses, it's not taking much from the services, then we need to decide how to do it right? So that's where I think the conditions, you know, I'm hoping are right. That's what Columbia County did. If we're going to be open for data centers, let's create rules around it. So let's not just go in and I don't expect you guys to say, go build it, whatever, have fun. You know, buffers, sound mitigation efforts. Stick me with the more expensive tier 4 generators. If we're going to have one, let's do it right. I went ahead and proffered up some of those conditions. So it was really the site with the infrastructure that brought us to McDuffie County.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, you want to? Yes, ma'am. Did you want to say something quickly?
If you will, I need you to answer the question. You said individually owned. Who owns the data center? And then once you collect all the data, how do you all recoup your money? You said it's $1 billion. So how do you recoup your money? Do you sell the data? How do you recoup your money?
Great question. So it's privately owned. So again, by, you know, most likely a publicly traded company would own the center when it's done. So either let's use Google, for instance. Either they're going to own it or a data center developer is going to own it and they're going to lease it out from them. Again, no different from, you know, is it a Dunkin' Donuts franchise or does a developer own it? And Dunkin' Donuts pays 7%, you know, in cap rate. They pay $80,000 a year for that building, for that licensing, for their name on it, for their brand. But the person that owns that building gets the money. Dunkin' Donuts pays them. Again, I think I did answer what they do with the data. I think we all know you know, we can see they're sending us ads and it's no, I mean, it's data center or not. It's not even a data center. It's these companies, you know, they make money by when we get on there. Concerned Citizens of McDuffie County or any other county has that website. You're logging on there, you're seeing something on the banner, it's targeted to you. That's how they make their money. So, you know, how does Google make billions of dollars or Amazon? I mean, that we all know that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that time we're done with comments. Sorry, ma'am. I'm gonna open up for motions, with conditions or not.
But I just wanna say, he still did not answer the question, who owns it? Is it an individual that lives in McDuffie County? Are you selling it after you get it built?
Yeah, so who owns it right now?
Who owns it?
Who owns it right now?
Yeah, but you still, that somebody's still gonna own it.
Yeah, somebody will own the data center. I don't think somebody will own it. Do I know who that is right now? No. I've used the example already. A developer develops a shopping center. When you guys approve it, when you guys talk about it, you don't know what tenants are going to be in that shopping center. You don't know exactly who it is. This is how this works all the way from a laundromat to a data center. It's the same thing. Somebody will own it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Steve. What, guys? Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion that we'll approve it with, I want to add, some conditions to the approval. And, number one, I'd like to have a written documentation who the end user will be. And also like to have a documentation from a power company, whether it's Georgia Power or Jefferson Electric, saying they can supply the electricity and they will, and the data center will bear all the expenses of the electrical upgrades or whatever. And number three would be a document from the City of Thompson, Water and Sewer, saying that they can supply that 30 gallons a day water. And if not, then the data center will agree to upgrade the treatment plant
30,000.
if it's needed. And then I want to say, then another one would be the environmental monitoring plan of it, and roadway improvements, and the noise reduction, that we don't want it to be over the limit that y'all had quoted us. And also no groundwater withdrawal. And also I'd like to put a time limit for the completion of the project. You said you'd do it by 2030. Is that enough time for you?
Yeah, I can't right now agree to finish it in 3 years.
Okay, all right. Well, how about I put in 5 years? 2032.
I'd rather it be a start. We have to start by a certain.
What we have in our zoning documents.
Is that legal?
Once approved, if approved through the commissioners, you have 1 year. After 1 year, if you have not started, we can come back, it comes back to this board, and we can rezone the property, extend it, whatever we want. But you have
Okay.
1 year to technically.
To get a permit, to get nothing.
That's right.
I'll add that
That is
condition in.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my motion.
All right. Anybody else got some motions to add to it? Or
Yeah.
conditions, sorry, not motions.
Yeah. Fire protection, to make sure that the facility is protected, fire suppression system, inside and out. Bud's already mentioned, I know you're gonna have to have an intent to serve for power, water, sewer, all that before construction starts. That's gotta be done. And all infrastructure, like we stated, has no impact, no effect on any taxpayer in the county whatsoever, economically whatsoever. And I wasn't questioning, when Charlie came up about the amount of water. I know we got capacity. Just want to make sure our facility and all the instruments in our facility is up to date and up to par. They can, check everything out before it goes out. Because, I mean, some people still get letters in their water bill, and it frightens them a little bit. So I just want to make sure there's no questions about all of that. So anyway, and last but not least, and I know this is more for the commissioners, if this thing passes, everything goes through, I recommend that we do drop property tax, fire tax for all homestead exempted property owners to be eliminated. Now,
You got any conditions? Ms. Georgia? Any other conditions? Kaylin?
I was gonna say the property tax.
All right, perfect. I do have a few things that I wanted to put out there. You've got your environmental monitoring. We did talk about discharge runoff for the first 2 years, monthly, on water samples done on the property as it leaves, because it's through you'll have a EPD discharge permit just for the first 2 years. As long as nothing comes up, you can drop it after that. I don't know that everything on this possible request or condition has been addressed, but everything that's on here, Leslie, I'd like to send as a condition. It has both letters, the enhanced buffers that you talked about, environmental monitoring, enhanced setbacks, the roadway improvements, water sewer upgrades, the lighting, downcast, light pollution, noise reduction. There is no groundwater. There has been some comments on the buildings afterwards. Some kind of a decommissioning provision has been recommended. I'm not going to stipulate what that is because it's not my business, but to get, if approved with the county, whether it's a bond that's placed or if, after it's no longer of use as a data center, a couple of years after, it has to be reclaimed, something like that. But some kind of a decommissioning provision for the site that would go through Leslie's office with the commissioners. No problem with that?
I don't know what it is.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, big difference between a bond, $1 million bond or $100 million bond. I don't know. Hey, can I speak to that real quick?
Yeah.
Commissioning?
You don't have a problem with $1 million bond, we'll put the cap at $1 million bond.
What's that?
If you don't have a problem with $1 million bond, we'll put a $1 million bond cap on it.
The decommissioning and, again, none have been decommissioned.
Understand that.
So there's a CBRE report from December, just 3 months ago, that vacancy rates for data centers right now is 1.4%.
Yep.
So these things are leased up, bought before there's a shovel in the ground. So it's kind of the new thing right now, and I get it. But again, if you put $1 billion plus into this thing, so I just don't know. I just don't know. And these things, if it's not one company, do they just sell to another? You know what I mean? But they're not going away tomorrow. So I don't know what I can't agree to what I don't know.
Understand. Well, I'm going to recommend that the staff does some research on that, presents it to the commissioners. If approved here, it goes to that, and they can decide there. That'd be on them. Anything else? Anybody? All in favor, approved with the motion and all of the restrictions, raise your right hand. Georgia, raise your hand up a little higher, please. There you go. All not in favor? 5-1. All right, folks, that's our meeting. I'll call a motion to end the meeting.
motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.